Hey gang, welcome to Inverted Pursuits Laboratory, and this week we are actually going to take a look at the roll cage inside the LS-01. So you can see that there is a steel plate that was bolted to this steel plate, welded to a tube that goes up, around, and down to an identical place on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the roll cage and look at the welds to make sure that they are as strong as I want them to be, as well as mess around with looking at just strengthening it up in general to make sure that if this vehicle were to ever wreck, really hoping that never happens, but got to make sure that it is as safe as I can possibly make it before we put it back out on the road. So let's get going. So I ran into a little snag while trying to get this roll cage out, and so while I'm sitting here just thinking about the best way to go about this, I was actually figured I would show you guys inside the cockpit a little bit here with the steering wheel, the different controls and gauges that we have on here. So off to the left we've got the choke for the vehicle. We also have our high and low beams for the lights. We have the horn, which if I actually turn the vehicle on, it's a cute little horn that goes off. We've got stereo down here. This is actually an aftermarket stereo, not the original one that came in the vehicle. Back up on the gauge cluster, you've got your speedo, you've got your gear indicator, so you can kind of just barely see the neutral lights on, which that actually might be on. Nope, there's first gear, that's neutral. So then first gear. Oh, I guess we're not going to get second gear out of her, but I can, oh, then we've got that. We've got the fuel gauge. We have got the voltage on the battery, which is very nice to see. The oil temperature, and then this one is actually a gauge my dad added, which is the cylinder head temperature. So he's got a couple wires on the cylinder head that read that. But then off to the right here, we've got your off-run switch, which for some reason isn't quite working right now, which isn't allowing me to turn the vehicle over, even though the vehicle is in fact on and has a new battery. So I'm not quite sure what's up with that, but if I mess with enough buttons and switches on here, usually it starts to work. But looks like my main issue might actually be in this control over here right now, because when I turn this to run, it should turn off this oil light. Can't say I fully understand this 1983 Honda-Matic that's in here, but that light's pretty normal to come on. Usually it turns off when you put it in the run position for this switch though. So, well, that's kind of a little tour inside here. We'll see if we can figure out how to get this running, and if I figure it out, I'll let you guys know. Also, real quick before I get going on the roll bar decisions more, this is what I have welded up as my final outrigger design for the time being. Still to change, I want to change out this ring, or these spacers here to proper rings, but I cut and welded this at a steeper angle and cut it back more so it doesn't interfere with the fairing. This piece is all new with an updated method for grabbing between the front support on the outrigger, but the other one was a little flimsier than I like. This is very stout, welds on at 2 points. I'd still like to put a bracket or gusset here between this one and this one, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I told you I'd give you guys some quick updates as I went along. So here they are. I've also changed how the rear support mounts, so it's now a square mount instead of angled. Just wanted to make sure it was as strong as it could possibly be. Alright, so a couple things here as we're ending out this video. So I went ahead and reinstalled the roll bar back the way it was. I did a bunch of research, and all the vehicles pretty much have a very similar system, even though this is vehicle number 1. All of the roll bars are bolted in place. The only difference really between the Lightstar and the Pulses is that the Pulse, rather than having the bolts go through a welded on plate, actually bolts straight through the tube. So this bracket's just further back here. Out of the tube sits further up. Not really sure which, but basically the bolts go through the tube. The welds are solid. I was able to get a good enough look at them, but for the time being I'm putting it back, so if we test drive the car around we at least have some safety mechanism in place. But also is something I'll probably have to revisit in the future, just because I'm not a huge fan of it, but it may be more work than is initially needed to be invested for keeping this project moving. So additionally, I made some final updates to the rigger, as I kind of showed you earlier. I've also now welded in a structural support plate here. I can still actually get a nut on from the other side to bolt this joint on, but it is quite the sturdy little guy. The wheel is back on there, and I can actually do quite a bit with the way this is all mounted up. That's going to be our video for this week, gang. So thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and check out the other 4 parts so far on this build series. There will be more to come. I don't know at what point, but there will be more to come. Thanks.